Hey everyone, how y'all doing? And welcome back to another meta guide. So we only have a couple more weeks left of the season until we get a new season and new updates. Now I don't think it's going to be a massive changes coming up for the following season. Who knows, right? I just don't anticipate that. But I guess we'll see. But either way, we have a couple leagues. We have the Open Great League or we have the Catch Cup that you could play beginning tomorrow. Now, for those who have been watching the channel for a while, know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Catch Cup. And the reason for that is because it forces you to invest in Pokemon, like duplicates, a lot of times, right? Now, obviously, you know, Tinkaton just came out this season, so if you built it this season, I mean, you had to have built it this season, if you have one, because it just came out, but that's fine. But, like, if you have, like, a Feraligatr from seasons ago, a really good rank one, you want to use another Feraligatr, you have to build another one. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of it. Some people might prefer the meta, and that's totally fine, but it's essentially the Open Great League as long as the Pokemon have been out this season. It has to be caught in the Might and Mastery season. Anyway, that's the Catch Cup. We're not talking about the Catch Cup. We are actually talking about the Open Great League. So let's go ahead and dive right into it and see what we got going on for us. For the S rank, we have Clodsire. So Clodsire, I mean, it's always been a good Pokemon. I prefer it with Sludge Bomb. Over Stone Edge. Obviously, you could run one or the other. It really depends on your team comp. But definitely Earthquake, and then, of course, Poison Sting as a fast move. Ever since Poison Sting received that small buff, like 3-4 seasons ago, whenever it was, it became so good. And it was still good before then. And Jump Bluff is another one that's really good. Most of the time nowadays, you do see it with Aerial Ace plus Acrobatics. Acrobatics did receive a buff, so it's just such a good move. You really don't want to go without Acrobatics, and you really want a cheap move. That's why people are running Double Flying, compared to like having Energy Ball on it. Energy Ball is still good, but that's why people are choosing to run Acrobatics plus Aerial Ace for that bait move, and plus it's still super effective towards like fighting types or other things. Obviously, it won't be as good if it's going up against like a Feraligatr, but at the end of the day, Acrobatics still is going to do a tremendous amount to Feraligatr anyway. Dusknoir is a ghost type that did receive a buff as well. Astonish is doing a lot of damage. Dynamic Punch did receive that buff. You get to it faster. Shadow Punch, just a good Pokemon. I prefer the Shadow one. I don't have a good Shadow one. And is it in Rocket rotations currently? I don't know, actually. I have no idea. But still, I mean, it's cool to see Dusknoir at the top, which is really nice. I've seen it quite a bit this season. Diggersby, another bulky Pokemon. Quick Attack plus Fire Punch and Scorching Sands is generally the moves that you see. Once in a while, you might see Hyper Beam, but I still prefer the Fire Punch, especially now that Tinkaton is the meta. But also like Scorching Sands, which is still strong against Tinkaton anyway. But yeah, I mean, Diggersby is just such a great Pokemon just because of how bulky it is. Galarian Corsola was actually so good that they actually nerfed Nightshade. But, I mean, it's still a good Pokemon just because it's so tanky. I just know that it's difficult to get a good one. I'm fortunate that I did get a good one, or at least a decent one. So I have mine built, but it also needs XLs level 50, so it is kind of rough. But if you have it, it is really good, and it is worth the investment. Obviously, the other ghost types, I still think this is one of the better ones. And then Lapras as a Sidewave user, which is fantastic. It also has Sparkling Area all this season. Made Lapras really good, which I'm really hyped for. I really liked it this season because Lapras is one of my favorite Pokemon. Not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. I love Lapras. I remember Ash riding it around the Orange Island, so it's a great Pokemon, and I love seeing it and using it myself. Skull Bash or Ice Beam, it just seems like whenever I want them to have one move, they have the opposite. So if I have a Grass type, like hopefully they have Skull Bash, they hit me with Ice Beam. If I have my own Lapras, and I'm like, hopefully they have Ice Beam, they hit me with Skull Bash. It's just a coincidence, but that's what it seems like. And then we have Malamar, another Sidewave user. Malamar, of course, received that Foul Play rework, which is actually really good. Sidewave, it's been good, but like Sidewave is just such a good move. Grumpig received Sidewave and the Dynamic Punch boost, which is fantastic for it. It helped out Grumpig a lot. Love to see it. Feraligatr, or the Shadow version of Feraligatr, always been a good safe swap ever since it got Shadow Claw, and I love Feraligatr. I love using it as a safe swap. And then we have Tinkaton, which is the newly released Pokemon for this season. It came out this season, and it's so good. I got a rank 37, so I'm actually really fortunate. It's still a good Pokemon, even if you don't have the greatest rank one, but obviously it's better if you swap them. and you get a good rank one, and that's what you have to do. You have to trade with low friendship trainers, so then you can get back one with lower attack, high defense, high HP, which is what you want. Again, if you just hatched one from the egg, I still think it is worth the investment, but it is better if you have that higher ranked one. Now, obviously, if you're going into a mirror match, I always lose CMP because I have low attack. I just have a really good one. But that's just something to keep in mind. Bulldoze and Play Rough I do think is the way to go. It also says Heavy Slam. I saw that a couple times, but I do like Bulldoze on it. Bulldoze is not the greatest move, but I do like it in the Great League. In the Ultra League, like on Zygarde, for example, I don't like Bulldoze. But like in the Great League, I think it's fine because it's still going to do a sizable amount of damage to like Drapion, for example. Things that it's super effective against. And it also has that debuff chance. Anyway, moving on to the A rank, Corviknight. Corviknight does a good job of walling all the attacks coming from the Tinkaton, which is fantastic for it. Not everything is about Tinkaton. Not everyone's going to use it, obviously, but you do see it a lot, and it is really good. So Corviknight I feel like it's a pretty good core breaker, right? I mean, a lot of the top Pokemon, if you think about it, you look at the Clodsire, you look at the Jump Fluff. Obviously, the Sand Attack is resisted, but you have a super effective Sky Attack, plus all the moves are resisted from Corviknight. Just such a fantastic Pokemon. Love using this one. And yeah, I'm glad Corviknight is seeing a lot of love. And then we have Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing did receive the Sludge buff. Sludge is just such a good move this season. So I mean, it's a fantastic Pokemon. It's interesting because sometimes you do really well against Weezing, but sometimes you don't. It's just kind of give or take, right? So like obviously, if you have a Mudslap user like Gastrodon, you'll do great against it, but it gets to the moves fast. It really depends on you what moveset you want. It has a wide range of moves. You don't see Play Rough too often, but you do see Overheat. But you could also see Brutal Swing and Sludge. You always see Sludge, right? But sometimes that's Brutal Swing, sometimes that's Overheat. Obviously, the best place to charge up for the Overheat. I feel like the Shadow ones usually run Brutal Swing, and then the non-Shadows with the Overheat, but it really depends, just for the damage. Then we have Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is super bulky. The Umbreon of the Skies, I think Zionic used to call it that, right? So yeah, I mean, it's super bulky. And it's been updated, obviously with Aerial Ace in the past, Foul Play as well, but it also has Dark Pulse. Just could take hits. It does a good job of walling the Mudslap users like Gastrodon, right? And even some super effective attacks it can take just because of how bulky it is. Gastrodon, probably my favorite Mudslap user. Claydol is kind of close, but I really like Gastrodon a lot, and I've really enjoyed using it. Primate gets to Rage Fist in 4 Karate Chops, which is crazy. You could run Ice Punch or Close Combat. Honestly, I like the Close Combat, but it really depends, I guess. If you're running the Shadow, I could see you getting away with Ice Punch, but like Close Combat is a heavy-hitting fighting attack. Primeape has a huge attack. Jellicent, another good Pokemon, with the Hex buff that it received. Hex, of course, is generating energy a lot faster. And then we have Carbink. Carbink is okay. Carbink is not a bad Pokemon. It's better than the Bastiodon, in my opinion. I do like Carbink. It's just like compared to Bastiodon really needs the good alignment, but Carbink kind of has a little bit of wiggle room, right? And I've said that before. Like obviously against fighting types, you have Moonblast, so you could knock out an Annihilate, a Pangoro, or something, or at least get a shield. With Bastiodon, they're just going to be able to destroy the Bastiodon. So I do think Carbink is a lot better. Even before Bastiodon kind of got nerfed and everything. And then we have Sableye. Sableye is a fantastic Safe Swap with that Dazzling Gleam buff. Foul Play as well, gets to move so fast. Fantastic Safe Swap, I think. Then we have Drapion. Drapion's another great Safe Swap. But again, it has to watch out for like Tinkaton now, both of these, Sableye and Drapion. Obviously, Tinkaton wasn't in the meta when the season began, but now it is because it's out. But still a great safe swap. Then we have Credilli. This used to also be a great safe swap again, but Tinkaton came out, and then if you safe swap Credilli, Tinkaton is going to have a field day against it because it does. Tinkaton resists all the moves Credilli has, so it's just such a fantastic matchup for the Tinkaton. But Credilli is still a great Pokemon, and I mean the debuff, the Rock Tomb debuff is fantastic. Moving on to the B rank, Azumel. Azumel's not bad. I mean, like, it was nerfed once in the past with Bubble, and then it kind of reverted back. So Azumel's not bad. You do see it for sure. I've never been Well, I shouldn't say never, but like I'm not the biggest fan of it nowadays, just because it takes so forever to get to its moves. There's a lot of Pokemon that are just faster than it, and I'm not the biggest fan. It is bulky. We'll see if they change it next season, or that'd be cool if they buff Rock Smash to make Azumel good, but in a different way. A lot of people probably don't want that, but it also has Rock Smash as a fast move, but you don't. That's a bad move. But no, it's not the greatest Pokemon, but it's not the worst. It really depends on the situation you're in. Obviously, it can do well against a lot of Pokemon too. Togetic is another good one that did receive some buffs with Dazzling Gleam and Psyshock. Annihilate does have the counter damage, Rage Fist, and Ice Punch in close combat. Of course, we know about the counter nerf from seasons ago, but that nerfed Annihilate hard. But then Rage Fist came out during the community day, and it became really good again. Give Annihilate Force Palm. No, don't actually do it. I don't even know if it learns Force Palm in the main games, but if it did, Annihilate would become top meta again, I feel like. Definitely, right? Steelix is pretty good. It does have Thunderfang and Dragon Tail. You do see the Thunderfang all the time. I mean, I see Dragon Tail, I think, once this season, but you always see Thunderfang. And then the charge moves are kind of, could be anything. Definitely Psychic Fangs, and then I've seen Breaking Swipe. I've seen Crunch. I've seen Earthquake. Most of the time, I feel like it's Breaking Swipe plus Psychic Fangs. Then we have Pango. Pango is a fantastic Pokemon. I love using this one. I always just have a lot of fun. It really is squishy and frail and can't take many hits, but it's such a fantastic pick, I feel like. And then we have Toxapex. So Toxapex, another strong... Toxapex is interesting because it has Poison Jab, which it's super bulky. Poison Jab is a great move, but Brine is not a good move. But it needs Brine, and it has Sludge Wave, which is good. So, like, if it had, like, a better move like Surf, for example, it would be much better. But I'm not trying to give him any ideas because do we really want Toxapex that much better? I don't know. And then we have Golduck, another Mud Slap user. Morpeko. Morpeko's a hit or miss. Obviously, if it gets a hit on energy and, they don't really have a lot of responses. For example, the Psywave uses, Morpeko does double resist because it's a dark and electric type. It's going to do great against, but, it's also not going to do great against, Mud Slap users. So it could, but shields and energy advantage is what Morpeko needs. And then we have Claydol. Claydol is another newly released Mud Slap user. I wasn't completely sold on it at the beginning of the season because we got a lot of ghost buffs. Dustin was really good. Glowing Course has always been good, but like Sableye. But no, I think it's actually really good now, and I really like it. Ferret is another one. I kind of felt the same way. I didn't see the potential for it in the beginning, but now I do, and I've used it a lot. And I have a really good ranked shiny one, and it's a lot of fun to use. I've also used it, obviously, in the remix and retro, and it's a lot of fun there, too. Fantastic Pokemon. The other options, we do have Stunfisk. That did receive a Thundershock buff. I think that was last season, though. But it's okay. Like, it just doesn't have the damage output, I feel like. But it's still good. Bastiodon, I've lost to it this season. Yeah, but you hardly ever see it. I'm not the biggest fan. There's so many things that do well against it. It has to be in alignment. It has to be up against that jump plus, right? It has to be up against... I can't even think of anything right now. I guess, any flying types, fire types, if you see it's Typhlosion or Talonflame, it has to be up against something that wins, that it beats. But if it goes up against something that beats it, it's going to struggle, right? As we mentioned earlier. So that's why I'm not really the biggest fan of it, even before the Stone Edge nerf. Not Stone Edge, Smackdown nerf. But, if you liked it, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but that's just personally how I felt about it. Clefable, another fairy type. It's not as good as Tinkaton or even Wigglytuff, I don't think, or another Charm user, but, it's a fairy win option. Galiciopod is a good safe swap. I see this a lot in the Ultra League. I feel like I see it more in the Ultra League than the Great League. Mawak, a good Mud Slap user, but I feel like not as good as it was like last couple of seasons. It's still good, though. And Alolan Sandslash is another pretty good ice type. Actually, a good ice type in general. Yeah, it's pretty good. Emolga did receive a discharge buff. It had that Thundershock buff, acrobatics buff. This whole thing, they're trying with Emolga. I don't really see it in the Open Great League, but I do see it. I've seen it a lot in the Remix Cup. Maybe not a lot, but like a decent amount of times in the lead. And then we have Quagsire, another Mud Boy. I forgot to put Swampert on this list. It did receive Sludge this meta, which I do think is pretty good. Okay, but more so for limited metas, but it's still not bad. Quagsire is okay as well. And then we have Wigglytuff as a charm user. Probably the best charm user, Dushbun, could be around the same as well. And then we have Guzzlord as a dragon type, Superior, good grass type, and then Talonflame. Moving on to the solid team options. So for the first team, this is a team I saw from It's Axon, which is Ferret in the lead, and Tinkaton, and Claydol. I don't really think you want to safe swap that Claydol. Probably safe swap the Tinkaton. But it really depends. I mean, Ferret is just really good in general. I mean, it boosts that Sucker Punch damage with Trailblaze. And it's just such a fantastic Pokemon. The backline, does generally do well against fighting types, but Ferret is weak against fighting. It really depends because Tinkaton is a steel type as well, so it takes neutral from fighting type attacks. And Claydol does resist fighting type attacks. And then next up, we have another team. We have Diggersby with Feraligatr and Sableye, so double Shadow Claw in the back. I think either of them could work as a safe swap. Probably the Feraligatr, to be honest. More so, I'm just thinking of Tinkaton. Again, not everything revolves around Tinkaton, as I mentioned earlier, but it is the hot new Pokemon for this season, and it is really good, so the hype around it is legit. And of course, Diggersby does well against Tinkaton. And then next up, we have Double Water with Lapras and Gastrodon. That backline will struggle to grass types, but Jumpluff does do well against grass types, being a flying type. So if you have Aerial Ace plus Acrobatics, going to do pretty well there. Lapras definitely going to be the safe swap. Another team I saw from Chillis, which is going to be Quagsire, and then Jumpluff and Corviknight. So this team is going to be ABA strong to that Tinkaton. I do think Corviknight is actually pretty good. I wasn't completely sold on it when it first came out. I thought it was okay. I felt like Sand Attack needed a little bit of a buff, to be honest. But I do think it does work, and it worked for me this season as well. So I do think it's pretty good. I like the double flying attacks on the Jumpluff, so I would go Aerial Ace Acrobatics with this team. Next up, we have Double Ghost with Tinkaton in the lead. So a while ago, years ago, Throw Technical, I think, created Azumel plus Double Ghost. I think it was Sableye and one other one. But this is a different take on it. Obviously, Double Ghost in the back. You could go with Sableye instead of one of these, like if you don't have the Corsola, for example. I do like Tinkaton in the lead. And then the final team is going to be Malamar with Double Grounds for Clodsire and Diggersby. So, let me know what you think of these teams. Let me know what meta you plan on playing. I'm definitely going to be playing the Great League because I'm not building Pokemon that I already have built just for the Catch Cup this season. Unless if I want to build another one, or I built it this season like Tinkaton. And actually, no, I think I did build Ferret a previous season. I could be wrong. But either way, that will be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye.